Hello and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips. And as usual, I'll start with just a few announcements. The first one is it's only a month until the Diet and Lifestyle Intervention course starts this summer. Dietitians get 39 hours, doctors and nurses get 39 hours of continuing education. This is an amazing program for health professionals who want to use diet and lifestyle instruction and techniques and protocols as part of their healthcare practice. And then we have all kinds of other programs related to professional development and career development. So keep those emails coming. You guys contact me all the time about opportunities in this field, and happy to talk to you anytime. Send you some information about what we do and schedule a time for us to discuss your objectives and how we might be able to help you get there. Another thing is, don't forget conference. Unfortunately, the day you're listening to this, the prices have already gone up because I told you they would on May 1st. However, you have a brief window of time before they go up again. Check out wellnessforumhealth.com, look at the conference flyer, and see if you don't want to join us. This is going to be the only conference you'll ever attend where you're going to get back more money than you invest. So go check it out, wellnessforumhealth.com, and see what you think. And then last but not least, those of you who've watched me for a long time, and you're thinking, I don't know, I might want to join, I might want to take some classes, I'm just not sure, take advantage of our free membership. You get to take one free workshop, get a few of our articles, a couple recipes, and you can see if you like us enough to jump in with both feet. All right, so pampopper@msn.com, that's my email, and feel free to contact me and we'll send you some information. All right, so today I want to talk about a topic that comes up frequently because we are often asked to donate money to advocacy groups or to come to fundraisers or support races and athletic events and this sort of thing. And it's a sticky issue, and it's one I feel really strongly about, so I wanted to explain it to you, but it also impacts all of you who know people who have various diseases and all this sort of thing. So let's just start with drug companies have very smart people running their marketing departments, which is one of the reasons why they generate hundreds of billions of dollars annually in sales. In fact, I'd love to have the drug companies come in here and teach me how to do what they do. The problem is they engage in some highly unethical practices, which most of us might feel a little uncomfortable doing. I know I probably couldn't do a lot of things I see drug companies doing. Well, some activities are pretty straightforward. I mean, we all know they give a lot of money to political campaigns. We know that they do a lot of lobbying. That's all straightforward. Other things they do are not so obvious. Like a lot of people don't know, you guys do because you watch me every week, don't know that the drug companies put up enormous amounts of money to fund the FDA. It's going to be close to $900 billion this year, $900 million, I should say. They support the CDC through the foundation. Now we know they're putting up money for the National Institutes of Health. But another thing is funding patient advocacy groups. Patient advocacy groups are formed ostensibly for the purpose of raising awareness of various diseases and funding research and lobbying Congress and other government agencies like the FDA on behalf of their constituents. Now, what we're talking about is groups like the American Diabetes Association, Susan G. Komen, the American Cancer Society, and the National Alliance on Mental Health. And there are hundreds of these. Every disease, I think, has a group. While patient advocacy groups sound like a good idea, the problem is the funding. They're heavily funded by drug companies, and they're often led by consumers who are very easily coaxed into promoting diseases that don't even exist, and treatments that are useless and sometimes very harmful. Because advocacy groups do not have to have an official tax designation, it's difficult to track down their financial information, like how much money they're taking in, where does it come from. They're not required to list their donors or the amounts of money those people donate or those companies donate on their websites or in annual reports. According to a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, only 57% of these organizations publish any donation data at all, and only 5% disclose exact amounts. In order to determine just how much drug company money is influencing these groups, Kaiser Health News engaged in what I think is some pretty creative and complicated detective work. So KHN staff obtained a list of 4,286 organizations that took in more than $500,000 per year. And then they looked at their mission statements and their websites to try to figure out which ones looked like they could be advocacy groups. So if they had a particular disease in their name, that was a likely group. The staff then reviewed drug company foundation tax returns. They asked for information directly from the drug companies, and then they tried to match it up with the advocacy groups. So obviously, very detailed and time-consuming assignment. The analysis showed that in 2015, contributions to patient advocacy groups were significantly larger than the amount of money that the drug companies collectively spent on federal lobbying. Data from just 14 companies showed that they altogether, these 14 companies, contributed $116 million to advocacy groups, only $63 million to lobbying activities, almost twice as much. Bristol Myers Squibb is a really good example. In 2015, the company invested $20.5 million in patient groups as compared to only $2.9 million on lobbying and only $1 million on trade associations. AbbVie contributed $24.7 million to patient groups in 2015, but the company, when asked about this, insists that the money was not spent for promotional purposes and it didn't benefit the company in any way. Yeah, right. I'm sure that they spent $24.7 million because they're just nice people. The amount of money drug companies spend on patient groups, I think, speaks volumes about where they think they will get the biggest bang for their buck. The fact that many, like Allergan, Baxter, Biogen, Celgene, Mylan, and Regeneron, refuse to disclose their relationships with these groups is also very telling. Indeed, the advocacy groups seem to be very good at disseminating information that is almost verbatim from drug companies. They lobby on their behalf in front of Capitol Hill. They raise money for research. They launch promotional campaigns to raise awareness of diseases, and they encourage people to see doctors to have tests and drugs and procedures. For example, the Prostate Conditions Educational Council, one patient advocacy group, launched the first Prostate Cancer Awareness Week in order to encourage men to have a PSA test. Now, again, those of you who listen regularly to me or have been to our conferences know that PSA is not a marker for cancer, but that doesn't stop the advocacy group from promoting this anyway. Major breast cancer charities are responsible for making October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and every woman is told almost every day in the media and with yellow or with pink ribbons and pink chicken buckets and pink M&Ms and all those reminders, you need to go get a mammogram. Patient groups are notorious, I think, for ignoring some of the things that they should be paying attention to if they were really advocating on behalf of patients and not the companies that are funding them. One example, AbbVie owns a biologic drug called Humira. It's used to treat conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and inflammatory bowel disease. It's been a huge success, responsible for 65% of the company's revenue, and a 1-month supply of Humira costs, get this, $4,872. That's a lot of money. In 2015, AbbVie gave $2.7 million to the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and $1.6 million to the Arthritis Foundation. Both organizations have chosen not to voice any public objection to the price of Humira, and the Arthritis Foundation has worked to promote state laws that would make it more difficult for consumers to take cheaper biosimilar versions of the drug. Another group, which is called the Patients for Biologics Safety and Access, also opposes the substitution of a cheaper biosimilar drug. And members of this group include the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, the Arthritis Foundation, and the Lupus Foundation, which all three of them took $9.1 million just in the year 2015 from the makers of biologics alone. So obviously, these are companies that represent the drug companies or agencies that represent the drug companies, not the interests of patients. The groups that take money from drug companies, when asked about it, insist that this is the only way that they can stay in business and do their quote-unquote good work. But there are some exceptions. The National Women's Health Network chooses to operate in a small office with a small staff and kind of outdated computers because they think their members think it's wrong to take money from drug companies. Bravo for them, and we need more of this type of thing. Back in the 1980s and 90s, patient groups were largely self-funded, and affluent members would pay themselves for trips to Washington to meet with Congress, members of Congress, or officials at the FDA. Today, instead, they're well-funded by the drug companies, and they even get training from the drug companies on how to lobby, how to testify in front of FDA committees, and to conduct public education campaigns. They have, along with an awful lot of doctors, become a very capable sales force for the drug companies. I don't think this is going to change anytime soon, and Adrienne Few Berman, a farmed out in Washington, D.C., says that she agrees. Her point is that the Physician Payment Sunshine Act now requires drug companies to report payments to physicians, and it's all published online. So if you want to see if your doctor, for example, is getting money from the drug companies, you can go to the website and find out. So the drug companies now need other ways to fund promotional activities where disclosures are not required. Few Perman says that in an era where people are upset about high drug prices and issues with health care and conflicts of interest, patients are much more sympathetic messengers than people from drug companies talking about their products. And she adds, sick consumers make for good press. They make for good testimony before Congress. They can be very powerful spokespeople for pharmaceutical companies, and indeed they are. Now, I want to make it clear, I think that there are some very well-intentioned people who go to work at the American Diabetes Association every day, and they think that they're doing good things and they genuinely want to help people. However, their conflicts of interest prevent them from disclosing and disseminating truthful information to their constituents. So, if you think about the Susan B. Komen Foundation encouraging mammograms and wearing pink ribbons and racing for the cure and all that sort of thing while they're promoting fried chicken and the pink bucket and M&Ms and all this sort of thing, this is not good information for cancer patients. It's good information for people who sell mammograms and do breast cancer surgery and that sort of thing. So it might help you to understand why we don't contribute to these kinds of things. We do not contribute to any nonprofit disease group that takes any money at all from drug companies. It's a highly unpopular decision for which we receive an enormous amount of criticism and vitriol, but it's a principled stand that we intend to maintain. We do give a lot of money to causes that provide valuable services to people, not those who represent the interests of big pharma or medicine. So you can choose to do what you want with this information, but if you're like I am, we are, and you're very concerned about the way that your money is used and the message that it's being that it helps to disseminate, you might want to give some thought as to where you invest your charitable dollars. Well, that's all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news.